listen. What does your body have to say to you? What does your body want? And it could be that you are anxious, right? Your heart's racing, you feel really nervous. And so then you connect in, close your eyes, and you're going to ask your body, what do you need from me? Why are you feeling anxious? What's going on? And it's going to tell you. Just get quiet and listen. Could be a thought, could be an image, could be a feeling. It's going to come up in different ways. And then you want to deliver, right? So for the D, deliver, give it what it needs. I'm feeling nervous because I have this meeting coming up. Okay, so you have a conversation with your body. Why are you feeling nervous? What's the problem? What makes you feel nervous? Well, I don't know if I am capable. I don't know if they're going to like me. Okay, well, why won't they like you? What's going on? And so then you're really just having this conversation with your body, delivering what it needs. Maybe it just wants to be seen, right? And then after that, it's going to release and it's going to go. And then that's when you bring in extra light for E.
Many people want to navigate life with peace and joy, but struggle to connect to their intuition. They find themselves overwhelmed, burned out, and frustrated. My name is Francesca Phillips, and I'm obsessed with spirituality and psychology and how the two can intersect to help you live a successful and intuitive life. I believe each of us can accomplish amazing things through balance and healthy habits instead of burnout. Consider this your go-to resource for where spiritual wellness and mindful productivity meets practical wisdom. If you're craving positivity and want to know how to find the answers within instead of searching endlessly without, then you're in the right place. Get ready to feel supported and inspired. This is the Good Space Podcast. You're listening to the Good Space Podcast, episode number 24, How to Build an Energetic Energy Shield and Protect Your Power with Angie Fisher. Before we dive in, I want to give my warm appreciation to our reviewer of the week, the Alex Ferguson. And they say, The Good Space is a must-listen-to podcast. It will motivate you to think differently and leave you actionable nuggets that can easily be applied to daily life. Francesca is an expert in the area of intentional living, and those who listen to her podcast will absolutely hear that. Thank you so much, the Alex Ferguson, for sharing your kind words. I'm so happy you're part of the Good Space community. If you want to be highlighted in an upcoming episode and help further the mission of the Good Space, make sure to subscribe and give us a review on Apple Podcasts so I can then highlight your review in an upcoming episode. It only takes a minute. You can pause the episode and come right back. Make sure to screenshot this episode on your phone and tag us on your Instagram story at @FindYourGoodSpace, #TheGoodSpace, to let me know that you're joining in today, as you know that I love to share those screenshots on our stories too. If you're afraid to unearth something within you or have a creative longing but don't know how to let it out, then I invite you to join my Creative Connection group. It's a writing group that's a sacred space for you to work on your creative expression and get positive, constructive feedback from others in the group. This is for beginner and professional writers alike. All are encouraged to join. So to learn more, go to bit.ly/join Creative Connection. It'll also be linked in the show notes. So just a little bit more about the meetings itself. I'll lead each session with a spiritual thought and provide writing prompts. Then you can read what you wrote to the group, who then shares what was most memorable or strong. Whether you have a book you're working on or need to release some stress, this group is perfect for letting your voice come out. There is one guideline everyone must follow. Anything shared is treated as fiction. That way you and others can feel safe sharing without worrying about judgment. This group is meant to help you feel seen and heard, to find your voice, to give you the space to test out ideas, to grow as a human and creative. If your soul resonates with this message even a little, please click the link in the show notes and join us now. Welcome to the Good Space Podcast. Today we're going to talk about energy and vibrational alignment, as well as creating an energetic shield. So if you're an empath or someone who is really essentially sensitive to the emotions of other people, or just like your environment, oftentimes we can feel like we are taking in so much and we either get overwhelmed or feel down, or just a lot of different things that can happen from that. And so today I'm really excited to speak with Angie Fisher about what we can do to stay in vibrational alignment and to create those shields of energy so that we can always stay vibrationally elevated. And Angie is someone that I've known for quite some time. She's an amazing woman who 3 years ago, she walked away from a virtual assistant business that she had for 6 years with a team of 15 people to lean into what was important to her, which was family, creating a life she enjoyed, and building a new business that felt good again. So she's an intuitive business coach and a Reiki master practitioner, mom, and lover of all things holistic. She lives her life without walls while opening her heart fully to life around her. Through one-on-one sessions, group programs, and healing events, she combines her experience of entrepreneurship and her gift of helping others heal so they too can create a life that feels good and grow a business that thrives. Angie, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited.
I know we've had, just even off the record, like on our past conversations, we've had so many good connections just with like energy. And I've done a Reiki session with you, which even though I technically had friends practice on me like years ago, I feel like yours was like the legit first time that I've tried it. And it was so powerful and just amazing how energy works. And I mean, if someone listening right now is like, what the heck are you talking about? Hopefully we can make it more practical and tangible for you. But I first want to ask you what that felt like when you had the success of your business before and you had a team and all of these things. What and actually how did you decide to make that choice, which probably most of the world would be like, you're crazy. What are you doing?
And I got that a lot. I had spent 6 years growing that firm. I had started when my son was born and just started staying home with him, and it grew like organically. And within 3 months, I had my first contractor. And then over time, it just grew so large, and it actually became a monster. When we become entrepreneurs, we think, oh, this is going to be so fun. We're going to have so much freedom. We're going to go do this during the day. And it was not like that at all. It became this beast where my laptop was attached to my hip at all times. It was my filter through everything. My family just became too big. And I realized that I was spinning my wheels and I wasn't motivated to grow it anymore. Didn't feel good. And so I remember sitting at my kitchen table and grieving, like sobbing, knowing that it was time. This was done. The season was over. And I needed to let it go. And so feeling responsible for those 15 people, one employee full time, and then other contractors, and knowing that they were relying on me was hard on my heart. But sometimes we have to know that that's the season for everyone. And it's just time to move on from that, take what we've learned, gather everything that we have, and move forward individually. And so it was hard, and grieving a business is no joke. So I did not realize that grieving a business it's a process. And I had a lot of energy wrapped up in that, and I didn't know that at the time. And I took a lot with me that I didn't realize. And I've spent some time releasing that energy that came along with me, even though the business was dissolved and gone.
Wow. And at that point, did you have that Reiki, like more spiritual side to yourself, or was this developed after?
After. And so I knew nothing about energy, nothing about Reiki, nothing. It wasn't even on my radar. And so I was dealing with it with the only way I knew how, and by stuffing down. So I was like stuffing down my feelings, my emotions, and that's why I had to deal with that later.
Wow. And so would you say that it was almost by necessity that you kind of knew you had to let go, or knew that there was, which I feel like I've experienced many times in my life, where it was more like the necessity of needing to move on or to let go or whatever. But so how did you go from this is not right for me anymore, I'm grieving the loss of that business, and now here's my new journey, my new path?
I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't even realize what I had learned in those 6 years. But the whole time I had been behind the scenes running this entire team, strategy, delegation, communication, and I saw so many entrepreneurs behind the scenes. So they, are announcing that I'm making 6 figures and I've had a $12,000 a month. But what I'm seeing on the back end, that it isn't that at all. And so what I learned was that even though a website might be beautiful and there might be a lot of testimonials that say that I've made this and I've made that, on the back end, those entrepreneurs are still struggling. They all have their own blocks. They all have their own struggles, their own challenges, and take it with a grain of salt. Like whatever you see on the front end, take it with a grain of salt, because I realized so much that I was guiding them with strategy and I was guiding them as a coach. I wasn't guiding them as a virtual assistant. And once I realized that, it was like a light bulb in my mind of, why don't I just do that on my own by myself and release the pressure and the expectation and trying to become this person that really doesn't feel like the right season right now. And so once I was able to do that, then I just started coaching and doing what I had always done in a different capacity.
And it's neat because I feel like there was like a seed planted already. So like through the work you did in your virtual assistant business, that seed of like, I should do this by myself. Like you put the pieces together. And so I challenge anyone listening right now to know that if you're feeling frustrated or unfulfilled or thinking, I don't know what's the next step, you may have a little bit of a seed planted already. So, our inner wisdom is so much more powerful and forthcoming with information than we realize. And I think the sooner we can recognize that, maybe the sooner we get answers or whatever. But I wanted to actually just walk back a little bit to when you said you worked with these entrepreneurs who are saying, I make $12,000 months or like, 6-figure business. So do you mean that they were lying? They weren't being truthful about the amount they were making, or the appearance of being like happy and effortless and it's easy?
Both. So it wasn't technically that they were lying about the 12,000, but everybody has expenses, and some of these entrepreneurs had large teams. And so while maybe they made $12,000 on a launch, imagine all of the expenses that may have went into that. I mean, there's so many things on the back end that are messy. And so, yeah, all of it, all of the above. And what looked like pictures of a freestyle life was not a freestyle life on the back end. And so you really it is hard because we judge ourselves so easily based on what we see on social media and websites and numbers. And I would say just take it with a grain of salt, because that's not everybody's season, and it's not all rainbows and unicorns all the time for anyone. It's just not, again, we're not here on earth we're here to experience. We're not here to walk into rainbows and unicorns 24/7 and all year long. We're here to experience, and to experience means to feel. And so always remember and try to put that filter on that they have challenges, struggles too, and try not to compare yourself to them, that they have the freestyle life that you want, and to be them and do them, because it may not be your season.
Yes. And would you say that it's possible to have the growth, the success, the whatever it is that someone might want without having, because I feel like how you just described it, it seemed like, yeah, on the outside, they might be making money or whatever the equivalent is for someone else, like maybe job promotion or whatever. But the energy behind it seems like it wasn't aligned. It wasn't vibrationally aligned. It was, like you said, messy and all those things. So do you feel like there's a way to still get good results in your life, but have it be more aligned and peaceful and easeful?
Yes, when you listen to yourself instead of, because everybody's going through their own season. And so your season isn't going to match another person's season. So really just connecting in with yourself, because maybe it is that they have a $12,000 month, but maybe you don't want $12,000. Yeah, it'd be nice, but maybe instead you want flexible days, or maybe instead you want to spend more time with your family, your pets, whatever that looks like. So really just putting this in a value bucket for you of what's in my value bucket, and then going for that and letting that drive you, and connecting with your body when you're looking at that value bucket of, does this align for me? Because if you're always trying to do something that someone else is doing, it's not going to line up for you, because that's not your journey. That's their journey. But you can pull bits and pieces from them, right? And learn from them. But always keep your season and your value bucket in check, so that you're not filling up their value bucket with your stuff.
It's really powerful. because that puts us in a place of empowerment. So essentially, okay, a thought that kind of came to my mind, because first of all, yes, that's so empowering. And I feel like a lot of people are scared of that because we don't trust ourselves. I know that was the case for me. I don't trust myself enough. So an expert or someone else has to tell me what's right or what I should do. And I need to follow the path that the world has said is the best path to take. And like, I take that responsibility off of myself. And so knowing, like you said, that I love that idea of a value bucket. You create your own values, you choose what matters to you. And so why do you think it's so hard for us to take that responsibility and that power of deciding what is aligned for us and what is a path, the right path for us, if that makes sense?
I think it's many reasons. So, I mean, for my honest opinion, I think it's how we are raised and how we were probably raised of taking the responsibility off of ourselves. And so be careful, don't do that. That you're going to fall if you do that. If you do that, this. If you do that, then. And so we have people dictating to us, and it's no harm and no ill intent. It's what they know, it's in their season. But we take that and then we say, well, that was poor judgment on my part. And it's kind of just a layer over time that's happening. And so then we begin to question ourselves without even realizing it. And so there's also the risk of failure, right? If we put it on ourselves and we do it ourselves, then I will blame myself. However, if I hire the outside sources, then I can say, you didn't tell me how to do that right, or it's your fault, and there's no accountability there on yourself. So the risk of failure, the filtered conditions, just that the fear-based conditions that we automatically have, being able to decipher those is important, and that's what can empower yourself to make your own decisions and have your own value bucket and live your own season while allowing some in that feels good.
And another thing that came to mind is the fact that we are all one, right? So I love The Seed of the Soul. I talk about it all the time by Gary Zukav, but he always talks about the personality versus the soul, how the personality is like a narrow version of the soul, because if our full soul was showing up, we probably couldn't even like handle it or live on earth, essentially. People often think that differences are bad, right? But the fact is we're all going to have different experiences. So how can we honor and value the fact that my experience is going to be different than yours, and therefore I should be the steward of my path and you should be the steward of yours, but at the same time still feel connected? Like, is there any place where those wires get crossed and maybe that's why we're also afraid to choose our own way? I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, we're a mirror to everyone else that's around us, right? So whatever I see in you or whatever I see in someone else is a lesson and experience if we allow it to be. So what may frustrate me about someone else, that has nothing to do with them. It has to do with me and how it's like triggering me or bringing things up for me. And so understanding that mirror and understanding that lesson and that experience and being aware in your body of, oh, what's going on? Why am I feeling that way? That's a great way to honor the difference and also honor on what is something that you may need to work on and that's showing up for you. So really just being aware and honoring they are different. And I'm so thankful that everyone's different, because how boring would life be if everyone was the same?
Yes. So it's almost like we should just understand that everyone's on their own evolution, their own journey, and we're here to help each other evolve through our interactions, through our experiences. And so rather than reacting like, oh, that person made me upset or like they irritated me, it's like, all right, let's ask ourselves here, why am I feeling this way? And like you said, just going through the process of like what you can learn. And then I feel like, okay, that makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing that. And so while we're on that path though, or that conversation, where's the line? Like, how do we know when to engage when someone's upset and to like be involved in, obviously we always want to be empathetic and compassionate, but I know there are certain points where some people's energy are just super toxic and it's probably not as beneficial for us to take that on. And especially as an empath, I know you are one as well. What are some ways that we can cope better or at least protect our own energy? So like if we're keeping it high vibe and we're in love and we're in compassion, but then we're around people who aren't, like, are there ways that we can still protect that?
Yeah. So if you're feeling, again, it goes back to awareness with your body. So if you're in a room with someone that you feel has a different energetic vibe than you do, a frequency than you do, then it's time to really step into your body. And this can be done even in a conversation of just, oh, I'm feeling heavy. And so, really, just shielding yourself of thinking about this light. And it's even like staring into someone's eyes and not listening to what they're saying for a second, and really just putting a coat of light around yourself of protection and envisioning it really just almost like a chalk line, to be honest, around your body of light so that it seals that in. However, when you do that, if energy has transferred already because you're feeling it, so something has penetrated, has been able to come through, and so it's important to seal at that time, but later on, you're going to want to undo that seal, take that seal off, that armor off, and then you're going to want to clear yourself. So you're going to want to ask your energy fields to clear anything that is no longer serving you, something that may have attached to you, anything that is no longer serving you, that is not yours, ask it to return to Mother Earth and be recycled for the greater good. And at that time, that's going to cleanse your energetic fields and your physical body of whatever may have latched on from that person and that engagement. Then you can ask to bring in anything that was lost, anything that may have been disconnected, and bring it back to you that is yours. So return back to me whatever I may have lost today. And then that will kind of fill in your energetic field again, because you want your energetic field to have no holes, right? And anytime we have some negative energy come in, it's going to poke holes. Anytime we have holes, things can get in. So we want to make sure to seal that after we have gotten rid of what isn't serving us, bring in what is ours, seal it up with that white light, and make sure that there's no holes. And whatever that imagination comes to you, then go with that at the moment, because that's your intuition that's speaking to you to seal that up for you.
Great. So, okay, I want to walk through this again to make sure that I understand everything. So, say I walk in a room and someone's just like really low energy and I can tell that it's a shift from what, my higher energy. And so what you're saying is if it's in a conversation, just visually in your head, imagine light surrounding you, or even if it's not a conversation, just like having that visual practice of like, okay, light surrounding me. And then at that point, do you like leave the room or leave the conversation, or like, is there a certain amount of time where I can handle it? Or like, what do you recommend in the moment as far as staying or not staying in that situation?
Listen to your body. If you're getting these signals or these thoughts that go out, get out, get out, or this isn't engaging for me, if you're feeling something that's wanting to pull you away, pull away. Find a way to get out of the conversation, leave the room, go to the bathroom even, and just take a deep breath and just imagine that things are going, the energy is going away from you. You can take a deep breath also of get the energy, act like it's just going out of the top of your head, like just release whatever you just picked up on, just release and take a deep breath to try to get it out of your body. And then that's a short little reset. So there is really no magic time your body's going to tell you, and your energetic field is going to tell you, you were already aware that something was happening. So let that guide you. And that can happen in any situation. If you know that you're going into a situation that is toxic. So for example, I had a client that knew that they were going into a meeting that was going to be difficult. So we shielded before. I taught her in the car, I want you to shield your energy field and think about the outcome that you want. And when you leave the meeting, how are you wanting to feel on how your energy was? How do you want to walk away? So when she shielded, it really allowed her to have some confidence to be able to walk in there, head up, shoulders back, with her energy bubble. It's really just kind of your backpack of support. It's always with you. So always lean on that and ask for guidance and shielding of protection and whatever you're walking into.
So essentially, is it the same as intention setting or visualizing? So you're seeing the outcome and you're feeling the feelings, and that acts as the energetic shield. Is that correct?
It also is an actual shield too. In my opinion, it's an actual shield because it is hard to penetrate through an energy field that is full of white light. So imagine if when you're in the room, let's say that you're at a networking event and you know that person that really lights up the room. You're not sure why they light up the room. They have a very strong light that is around them. And when that light's around them, it's really hard for that negative energy to get in there. And a lot of times, if you have that shield on already, that negative energetic field isn't going to want to be with you anyways, because they can't get through. And that's what the negative energy wants, right? They want to get in and kind of get through. Well, if you have a thick white light and you've already built that shield ahead of time, they're not going to want to stay around you. So it might take care of itself.
I'm glad that you said that because it also reminds me of Power versus Force. And he talks about, I forgot, the last name is Hawkins, but I forgot like his first name. But he talks about how higher energy converts lower energy, but not the other way around. So if you go to a lower state of energy, that's by choice. And so that's like basically, to me, like it was a visual of that concept, which I think is really neat. And so like you said, listen to your body. If it tells you that it wants to leave or you need to remove yourself, do that. And then, like you said, think about the light or think about the positive emotions, like create that shield. And then you said to do like this silent almost prayer where it's like release anything that's not serving me. Or how did you say that again?
So this could be if you were just engaged in a situation that made you feel heavy and you felt your frequency change, which when a frequency changes, your mood changes. That's a kind of a great way, a comparison that we would know. And so when that happens, step away and just silently say a prayer to yourself. Please release anything that may have latched onto me that I have taken on that is not mine and that is not serving me, and release it back to be recycled for the greater good.
And then after you release it for the greater good, then you say, bring back to me.
Bring back everything that I may have lost or was taken from me, and fill me up and complete, make me whole, whatever feels good to you. But really the concept is get rid of whatever just latched onto me, bring back whatever may have been lost in that transaction.
And then bringing it back, is that the sealing again, or is there another step after that?
Then you should seal, because once you've gotten rid of it, you've brought back in, and then just imagine that white light being whole, being complete, no holes in it.
Got it. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood. And I'll also make sure that we create some sort of like one sheet or download to put these steps like written down, because I'm sure if someone's like super new to this, they're like, what is happening? So I love that. And I love also the idea of like preempting it. Like before you even go into a situation, like creating that seal and that energetic shield. And it's funny because I have totally seen those people at like, before COVID, like parties or different things where you're like, that person just is like a magnet. And I never knew why or what it was. And you just pointed out exactly what the answer was. And is there a practice that you have to always feel that way? Or like, how do you, like, is it just like you do those shielding techniques before you go into an event? Or like, is there a way to just constantly keep that light as bright as possible?
One thing that I do every night before I go to bed is I do that same practice. So I ask to release anything that I may have picked up on that day, anything that is not mine. Please just get rid of anything in my energetic field that is not mine from today, that is no longer serving me, and release it back to the earth. And then I call in, please bring back to me anything that I may have lost for today or disconnected or for some reason just is not in my energy field, and bring it back to me and make me whole and complete. I also do it for my kids and for my husband. So, and then I do it for our home. So whatever, because they hold energy, and whatever in our home that may have happened that day, I ask to release it, bring it back. So that's a good practice just to cleanse your energy field. Like we clean our home. We want to clean our energy field too, because there's energy bubbles everywhere that we're picking up all the time. So that would be the first practice that's going to help you feel more in balance often. And then you have to just really connect in and be aware. So we're not always going to have a bright light. We're not always going to have a frequency of love and a high frequency because we're going to experience things in our life. The key is the awareness of when you get bogged down, really connecting in and knowing that that's happening to bring yourself back up instead of staying in that lower frequency. So we are going to get in those lower frequencies. It's a part of this experience, but it's what you do with it after that when you realize is the important part.
Yes. And making sure to not judge as well. I know that's something I struggle with is because I'm feeling frustrated or sad, I judge myself for that. And then it creates more resistance and I just spiral down like the emotional ladder. And, I've been trying to simplify a lot in my life. And I feel like just grab for the next best emotion you can. Like, even if it's not complete bliss or joy, it's totally fine if it's just like the next one up and then the next one up. And you just like give yourself that grace and peace to be able to get there eventually. It doesn't have to happen like in the snap of a finger. So what does vibrational alignment feel like for you? What does it mean to you? I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
So everyone has a different vibrational alignment because we're all different beings. And so your vibrational alignment is going to feel like when you're just home, right? You're home, you're feeling good, you feel yourself, you feel connected. And so all of those things, when you just feel, it's not really even relaxed. It's kind of just, you're at that midline of like, things are pretty good. I'm feeling pretty happy. So that's vibrational alignment to me. And we all are going to have that give and take throughout the day. The good thing about knowing your body and being in awareness is that you can connect in and really speak to your body. So I like to think of vibrational alignment as going A through E, just like the alphabet. So I would start at A and it's awareness. So I'm triggered or something's happened that I'm not vibrating how I normally feel. So there's the awareness. That's the red flag of you need to do something. And then B would be take a deep breath. So stop and take a deep breath for a moment. Let's say that you're in the moment and you can't really you can't go somewhere and calm down for a second. You can still just take a deep breath in your mind and just pause for a minute and take a deep breath and relax, lower your shoulders. And so then C would be connect. And it doesn't have to be at that moment, but at some point in that day, you need to connect in with your body and pause, breathe, connect, and listen. Get quiet, which scares a lot of people because we don't know what's going to happen when we get quiet with ourselves. So you connect in, and at first it is scary and it can be hard, but eventually you really get to like that time that you have with yourself of connecting in because your body will tell you many, many answers that you're searching for externally that you're probably not going to find. And it's going to be a much harder road if you seek external answers than internal. So you connect in and listen. What does your body have to say to you? What does your body want? And it could be that you are anxious, right? Your heart's racing. You feel really nervous. And so then you connect in, close your eyes, and you're going to ask your body, what do you need from me? Why are you feeling anxious? What's going on? And it's going to tell you. Just get quiet and listen. Could be a thought, could be an image, could be a feeling. It's going to come up in different ways. And then you want to deliver, right? So for the D, deliver, give it what it needs. I'm feeling nervous because I have this meeting coming up. Okay, so you have a conversation with your body. Why are you feeling nervous? What's the problem? What makes you feel nervous? Well, I don't know if I am capable. I don't know if they're going to like me. Okay, well, why won't they like you? What's going on? And so then you're really just having this conversation with your body, delivering what it needs. Maybe it just wants to be seen, right? And then after that, it's going to release and it's going to go. And then that's when you bring in extra light for E. Give it extra light because once you've released, you have that hole. Fill it in with light. And then you will feel better just connecting in and it will become a habit because it feels good.
I definitely felt so much good energy when you were describing that. And, my heart actually got a little nervous when you're saying connect and like be honest about what you're feeling, because it's so difficult when you're out of practice of like nurturing and loving yourself to be open and honest. Like it's very vulnerable feeling. And so I know just from a personal like standpoint that give yourself a chance to at least try that. If you're listening this, try that practice, try that exercise. It will feel uncomfortable at first. The more that you do it and the more you start feeling good, you're going to want to keep feeling good. And hopefully it'll be a normal like practice that you keep in your life. And I also, so going off of that, I wanted to ask you about Reiki. So first of all, if the person listening has no idea what that is, let's explain what that is. And then how did you get into that?
So Reiki is a healing technique because we all have energy. I like to imagine and explain Reiki as if it were a river coming through your body. So through our experiences of life and while we're here, we have those experiences, we have emotions that happen and thoughts and feelings. And so through time, as we have those experiences, we create emotions, thoughts, and feelings that are dams. So you have dams within your body. Reiki brings in energy and the light, again, white light, and it brings it through the body and it helps to break up those those emotional dams that have been created. Because those emotional dams, if those emotions aren't dealt with at some point, then they need some place to go. So they find some place, maybe it's in your shoulder. So they find some place in your shoulder and then they sit. And that's when we can start to get sick or we can start to have complications later in that shoulder. So if we do Reiki and we bring it through, the energy goes through, breaks that up, allows it to release out and frees that space, and then helps you to relax and feel at ease and feel connected to a higher power than yourself. So that's what Reiki does for you. It really just cleans your energetic field and gets everything out that may have been bogging you down.
Would you say it's like going to the doctor, but for your spiritual health? It's almost like because I believe we have the capacity to clear. I mean, I'm sure you clear your own energy, but it's almost like sometimes we need that support and we need like someone else who can have that energy for us when we can't do it for ourselves, right?
Right. So I'm only the vessel. So I just am the person that helps to connect you to that higher universal power, that energy. So I connect you through, and that your body is actually doing the healing itself because we are all capable. And so I am doing really nothing super magical other than being that vessel for you and trained to be that vessel so that I can connect the two of you together again. It is like going to the doctor. So we have physical bodies and we have energetic bodies. And the energetic body is the body that takes the hit, if you will, first. So when I was talking about the holes, there's a hole that's been created, something's got into your energetic field, and eventually the physical body is the last body that has the symptom. So by the time that you have pain in your shoulder, you've already had some energetic fields that have been affected. So it is like going to the doctor, but we hit it on a energetic and physical level. So Reiki does all of it together.
I know when I did my session with you, I'll be honest, I went in thinking, okay, you know what? If I'm going to feel good, that's great. But I just was like open-minded about it, but also skeptical because I have a husband who's a lawyer, and trying to explain to him sometimes the concepts of like energy hitting first and stuff. He's like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like certain things, I'm like, fine. Like granted, he does believe in God. He does believe in spiritual stuff, but I think some of the like minutia of energy, like the more nitty gritty stuff, he's like not on board with yet. And so I always think it's healthy to come to things with skepticism at first, because it's like, all right, let's test this out for ourselves and see how it goes. And so I remember when we did our session, I was a little nervous because I was like, I don't know what to expect, but I hear really good things about it. And I just remember at the end of it, I had all those breakthroughs that we discussed about, I asked the pain in my hip and like my left lower back, what's going on? And then I felt this, voice saying, you're not embracing your power. You're not embracing your power. And I think like a few days after you checked in on me, and I was like, my stomach's doing all these, like I had some weird like body things happening. And it's just like, wow, that was pretty cool and pretty crazy. And I did feel so much better for weeks and weeks after. I mean, I still feel good, and I can definitely testify to at least being open to it. And I encourage, if you're listening and you feel like you're just emotionally stuck or you don't know how to feel better, I think that's like the key thing. If you want to feel good and feel better, this is a great way to do that. And I definitely felt good and better. And I just remember thinking how grateful I was that you chose to embrace this, because like I wouldn't have had that experience or some of those breakthroughs had you not been willing and able to do that for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I have Reiki sessions done on me. It's not that you reach this because because I know Reiki. I don't ever need the energy work done on me. That's not true at all. I go and have my own Reiki sessions done on me because we have our own blocks, right? I can do Reiki on myself, but when someone else can come in and support me and guide me through that connection, it's just so much more powerful. So I would say that all Reiki sessions are going to be different. All practitioners are going to be different. And how you are at that time, like what your season is also going to be different. So they're always going to be different. And there's distance and there's in person. So you and I did a distance session. And I found that especially during COVID, I wasn't doing many distance sessions before that. They were always in person. And now I love them because you get to be in your own home, right? You get to be in your own bed or in your own chair with your own blanket and your own candle or whatever that looks like. And you don't have to be anyone, and you can just be yourself. And so it's very empowering, and it's been eye-opening for me to be able to do sessions virtually. It's amazing that connection happens.
That is amazing. And when you said that having someone help you is sometimes more powerful than being alone, it just made me realize that we are one. And like when you see movements happening in the world, it's because each of us house like a certain power of energy. Like I feel like our spirits are not fully out there in the world. Like we have to contain it a little bit. But if all of us have like even a little bit of power from our spirits and then we compile them all together, it's like it makes the equivalent of like one big powerful like energy source. And so that's really cool thing you pointed out, that yeah, when we're together we are more powerful. And I think it's beautiful that we get the opportunity to heal each other and to serve each other. And I think that's another thing a lot of people struggle with, is receiving service or love or healing. And it's like, no, actually, when you allow people to serve you, then you're giving them blessings because they're exercising their power of their spirit and vice versa. And so anyways, it's really cool. So I love everything that you've shared so far about energy, about how we can shield ourselves and also prepare ourselves. And for any lingering skeptics or people who might be like a lawyer or an accountant or like people who are more intellectually minded, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you that you would tell them to maybe give them something to think about that's different than what they typically would think?
Well, when we're talking about a Reiki session, I would say the worst thing that can happen is that you feel relaxed. And I think everybody wants to be relaxed at some point. And so if they're feeling scared or intimidated, that's also a sign that there's probably something that they're scared of because they don't want to get quiet. They don't want assistance from someone else, or they don't believe in it. And that's totally okay, because there's going to be a point in time when their energy is going to reach the level of needing support and needing more assistance. And they're going to be guided into, just as I was, just as you have been. We are all guided at some point. We can all recall some instance where we were like, it just changed. I saw Reiki, I found Reiki, or whatever that may be. Something comes into your perception and you move towards it. It could have come into your perception many, many times and you never even noticed it. But it's when you notice it, then that's probably time. So there are some times that I can't reach them, and it's not for me to reach at that time. And that was hard for me in the beginning. Like, I want to save the world. I can do Reiki now. I'm just going to do it all. And I had to realize I had a couple of people come in, and it was hard on me not to be like, but I can help you. And they ended up being relaxed because that's all they needed at that time. That's all their energy would allow. And so that's what they got. And maybe later it will be more. But for now, what served them was relaxation. So I just have to know that the energy is going to meet them where they are and what they're ready for.
Oh, the energy is going to meet them where they are. That's so powerful. And I think a great outlook just for a lot of things that we do in life. I know I used to force things so much. And had I thought about that a little more, like things are going to come into life and out of life and happen the way they need to. And like you said, energy meets you where you're at. And so hopefully, as each of us decide to become more with our energy and go to higher places, we can invite those broader and like bigger experiences into our life. And aside from Reiki as well, like just energy in general, like what would you say to someone who's intellectual that struggles to take seriously their energetic care like they do their physical health or other health?
Well, I would probably start by asking them if they were injured, would they go to the doctor? Like if they were sick physically and they weren't feeling well, maybe with a cold, and they weren't able to work or they weren't able to function as they normally would, what would they do? Would they take care of themselves? Would they go to the doctor? So what's the difference if you're not feeling well? Doesn't mean you have to have a cold. What's the difference in taking a step and allowing yourself to receive just for a moment? And if they are not good at receiving, which most are not, then there's where that gap is. I would just ask them to, why not? Why not explore this? Because you are so smart and you are very intellectual. Why not explore this? What's the worst that can happen?
Are there any transformational experiences or stories that you could share with us?
Let me think for just a second. There are so many. So I had, it started out sad, but I had a client that her son had passed away. And so she came to me and we did a Reiki session. This was actually a distance session. And I had never met her in person before. And we actually were able to connect in and help her to release and let him, he didn't want her to hold on to him like she had been holding on because it had been years. And so we guided her through feeling better and knowing that she still has a lot of her life left and really just not forgetting him, but holding on to him in a way in her heart, but not holding on to him to hold her back. And so we really did a session based on still moving forward and still living your life. And it doesn't mean that you have to be sad and be miserable for the rest of your time during this experience. And so we really worked through all of that. And that was huge. And that was amazing to watch that transformation happen. And I've had several with entrepreneurs, just we all have these blocks, and I've watched them grow their business because they finally felt confident again, or they felt like themselves, or they had direction, they knew what to do. So really just every session is amazing. And I learn something out of every session. It's always a learning experience for me too. So
yeah. And I don't know if you can share a little bit of what you remember from our session as well.
Mm-hmm. I do remember like the pushing and high expectation. And so you really had a high expectation of yourself to present yourself well and always be together. And so really just embracing that with you and figuring out why you always felt that you needed to deliver in that way and to give yourself permission to not always have it together and not push so hard because the gift is in the pause. And so really just helping you to embrace that pause and also knowing that you don't have to put a veil over your power, because I think you were putting a veil over your gifts and your power because you have so much to share and you have so much light to give, yet you felt like you needed to put a veil over it because it made other people uncomfortable. And so really just giving you the permission to remove the veil as you felt comfortable, but at least start the process of removing it. And really just allowing yourself to receive. I don't know that you had allowed yourself to fully receive because you're a giver. And so you being able to receive, and you did a great job of receiving. Like you really just leaned in completely. I could feel you leaning in. And I do remember in our session, it was like really cold. Remember how I had said, it's so cold, and we weren't on the phone or anything, and then you covered up with your blanket. It was so amazing too.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So just to like break it down, for someone listening and just to like give more of a visual. So, well, first of all, thank you for resharing what you took away or like what you remember from that session, because I definitely, like, since we did that, I have painstakingly been trying to receive more. And I'm going to be honest with you, like I resist it most times and I'm like, oh, like I should be doing things. So like, it's been like really hard to do it, but because I know I need to, I feel like I'm getting a little better at, resting and not feeling like I have to rush everything. And I think we talked briefly about my launch for the writing group. And I'm like, normally I would just force it to happen, but I feel like I should give it another week or two. And so just leaning into that. But yeah, so during a session, you speak in the beginning on the phone. And then once we like have kind of like a powwow of sorts, then we hang up the phone. And I was laying on the couch relaxing with a pillow and just a candle. And Angie said, when I'm done on my end, I'll give you a text. And then when you're ready, we can get back on the phone. So I'm laying here not knowing anything she's doing or thinking or whatever. And I'm just feeling this amazing energy. And when my eyes are closed, I had this like image and visual of me being in a forest. And I know you had said like you tell people to focus on something that feels good or like an image. And so I remember during the session, I was like, I need to get a blanket. And so I put a blanket on, and then you told me I got really cold. And so I don't know if the timing of it was like exactly at the same time, but I mean, come on. But it was just so crazy. And it's weird because I wasn't cold before or nothing, but it was just like, get a blanket. And I put a blanket on me. Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, I had to turn the heat on in my space. And normally like I start burning out because it'll be different. Sometimes I'll feel cold. Sometimes I'll feel warmth, but my whole space like got cold, and I turned my little heater on because I was like, oh my gosh, it is so cold in here. It picks up on different energy. Yeah. So some will say, some opinions are that like when it gets cold, there can be like spiritual unseen beings that can be joining in. And so it can get cold. But I always ask for guidance anyways. Like as we talked about in your session, I saw you running through the forest. Like you were just always running. And so I always ask for support and guidance on how can I fully support this person for the session. And I do a lot of preparation ahead of time, and really just energetic work ahead of time to get my space good, your space ready, your energetic space ready, and just so I can be fully available during your session. And I love it. It always just feels so good.
I'm so grateful you do that. And I remember too, you said that you saw like my mind was like a bunch of cables jumbled up. And the thing is, guys, I didn't tell Angie any of this stuff. Like we had only worked on like work stuff. Like it wasn't like I'm telling her like my life or anything. And she's like, I just saw that your mind was like a bunch of jumbled cables, and like your guides were sitting there untangling them and like lining up them in a row. And you said there were like 6 main ones. Like they cleared everything else out and there were like 5 or 6 main ropes, and it looked clean and like orderly. And I was like, oh, how do you know me? Like that's literally how my mind has felt for so long. And so to hear you like say that, not having any prior knowledge and like validating how I felt, I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel seen and heard. And it was just powerful. So.
And many things I don't understand. So, in the beginning, when I first started doing this, I was like, I don't even know what this means. Like cables that are intertwined in your brain, it would have felt so hard to tell you that. But now I know that it's not for me. Like that is not my message. So I'm just the receiver that's going to help you receive it. And so really just being open to that. And so I would ask that when you are connecting in and when your listeners are connecting in with their body, you may get a message that doesn't make complete sense at that time. It's okay. Trust whatever is coming through, because that's the communication and the relationship that you have with your body, and it will strengthen over time. That intuition, that connection will strengthen over time, and it is your ally now, but it will become your known ally to yourself all the time, and it's always with you. So really just embrace that and pull that ally in to help guide you through it all.
Oh, it makes me emotional because before, like a month or so ago, before we did all this, my grandfather came to me in a dream, and I'm only sharing this because I feel like it may help or serve other people, but it's a very like special experience. And he came in a dream, and like I knew it was him because I was looking really closely at like his hands and his arm. It was almost like I was checking to make sure it was him, and he was just like really bright and super happy. And he was like, I need you to be brave. It's time for you to be brave. And he just was like saying all these words of advice. And I got scared. Like his peace and his happiness overwhelmed me so much that I just started bawling, and it woke me up. And I was like, no, he was telling me all this advice. And that was the only part that I remembered, was to be brave. And like, it didn't make sense to me at the time, but I'm like, okay, like, and so now I always think of it, because since then I've done so many things that are scary and that I would have run away from had I not had that, honestly. And so I agree that just letting yourself be open to receiving and like getting the information, even if it's like a weird way, like a dream or a Reiki session, or just even sitting with yourself. Like we need to like learn to be more embrace more these different ways, and not just the ways the world tells us to. And so I think it's very powerful. And I feel like we've barely scratched the surface. Like just the energetic world is so untapped, even beyond like what we know already. And I'm so excited to keep learning and growing. And I hope that, whoever's listening, and me and you, that we can all just go a little further, like just stretch those boundaries and be brave enough to like experience that for yourself.
Because we deserve it. I mean, to not tap into that and to tap into all that's out there energetically and what we can allow ourselves to have and how good we can feel, like we all deserve that. And so to be able to live a life that pulls that in and create awareness in our body is the most empowering thing. And I think that's why I love Reiki so much, because it is so empowering. It gives me back what I've been looking for so many years. And I think what a lot of people are looking for, which causes so much distress and entangles our lives with distress. And it really has brought some awareness to me of how I can help even just the people in my community, or even just in my small space, of how I can help, because the ripple effect can be huge. So it's all just create the ripple.
Absolutely. And when you hear those sayings that you're not afraid of failure, you're afraid of success and of your, like, essentially like your power, you just proved that to me, because it's like, yes, we would, like, most of us would rather be victims to our environment, to our emotions, to our thoughts, and feel like we have no power, than to take that ownership and be like, no, I can protect my energy. I can guide my energy. I can do what I want with my energy. Like that is, you're right, true power. And most people are scared of that, but we were not made to not be able to handle it. And that's what I keep trying to tell myself,
And it's addicting, like to feel the energy and to feel that confidence and to feel that power is completely addicting, because when you feel the other side of that, the victim part, it just feels so much more off when you've been able to feel the good. So really just trying to gravitate towards the good. And it's your own journey. So you're not always going to be in the good, but you can always get back to the good when you've swayed. And we will all sway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Are there any books that you are reading right now that you would want to share with us?
Oh, I have one right here. It's Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die by Carol Truman.
Oh.
Yes. So cool. Look at all these tabs. Like, can you see?
She has like a ton of them. It's like
so many tabs.
Orange, yellow.
And I'm going to read it again.
So you like it?
I love it.
Okay.
Love it. It really just connects in and brings home that we need to release the emotions that are leading our life, because if you don't, even though you bury an emotion, it doesn't die. It stays in your body until you release it. So it's an amazing book. Love it.
I'm going to buy it. And we'll make sure to link it as well in the show notes. Angie, this has been such an awesome conversation. I feel like we should have more conversations beyond just this. But where can people connect with you and find you?
So it's on my website. It's angiemfisher.com. And I'm on Instagram at Lean In to Let Go. And all of that, you can find any coaching or I do virtual Reiki sessions and virtual Reiki circles. So you could join in as a community and even experience what Reiki's like in a circle.
Great. Oh, yes. If you are listening and you are even just mildly curious, I would absolutely visit her website and sign up. Angie's just so you're so tuned in, and I always feel good when I speak to you. And I think you mentioned as well, we might have a code for people listening, right?
Yes. So anytime you purchase any of the services on my site, you can enter the coupon code at checkout, the good space, and it will take $20 off whatever service that you are purchasing.
Yes. So now you have no reason to not try it.
Yes.
It's so worth it. Well, thank you, Angie, so much.
Thank you. It was so fun. I love talking about this stuff.
Now it's time for an affirmation. I intend to be an energetic, bright light to everyone around me and release anything that isn't serving me. If you found today's tips inspiring or thought-provoking, share it right now on social media and make sure to tag me at Francesca A. Phillips or at Find Your Good Space, and also weigh in the comment section at findyourgoodspace.com. You can find links in the show notes. And if you have a spiritual or mindfulness problem that you want me to unpack on an upcoming The Good Space episode, or an awesome manifesting story you want to share, give my podcast phone line a ring right now at 917-719-0867. Also, don't forget to download my free morning routine guide. It's what helped me reduce my anxiety, increase productivity, and so much more. The link to everything I mentioned is in the show notes. See you soon.